everyone, and welcome to the Burgess podcast, the show where we are opening up conversations about life at sea, discussing hot topics within the industry, as well as offering mental health support and promoting well-being for crew. We also have our very own in-house recruitment team, so if you or anyone you know is currently looking for a new position, please send your updated CV to recruitment@burgessyachts.com or check out our recruitment posts on Instagram @Burgess Yacht Crew. For the second in our series on sustainability, we are tackling the big one. Yes, we are talking packaging. Packaging is always in the media as one of the most problematic types of plastic, single-use and extremely difficult to recycle. So many products come wrapped in non-reusable, non-recyclable packaging, bottled water, cleaning products, toiletries. This is a challenge on a domestic basis. Elliott, you saw the challenges firsthand in terms of getting and keeping a yacht provisioned through the season. Must have been an epic challenge, and that's before you even think about dealing with all the packaging waste produced once you get it on board. Let's start with a very quick question. How many bottles of water does the average yacht get through on board each week in a season?
Well, I might be able to take that one. I mean, it's a tricky question to answer in some ways, but having spoken to a good friend of mine recently who did a quick provision for a few-week charter, they bought 800 bottles of plastic water. So it's quite a size. So that's not even the season. That's just a few weeks. So it's quite shocking. And that's obviously then comes in crates of 24 wrapped in plastic and so on and so forth.
Wow.
Yeah, I think all crew know about provisioning day and loading that water on board. So it's a bit of a workout.
I bet, especially with 800 bottles of water. So obviously that's a lot of packaging. What's the solution?
I think the single-use plastic bottles for drinking water is probably the main one on this topic. And I mean, what I would say is I visit boats quite frequently, and the norm these days is for there to be a drinking water fountain in the crew mess and to not use single-use plastics. I actually went on a boat a couple of weeks ago and they were still using bottled water for the crew. And it came up in conversation. It was more of a, what's going on here? And I think the common problem with installing a drinking water fountain is available space. Some crew messes are more compact than others. But I believe there are some more compact models out there. And there is a way of doing it.
One of the things that we've had quite a lot of feedback on from the boats, because clearly, as you just said, it is a huge problem, and as Alex and Elliott have said, more and more yachts are retrofitting filters where they can and making sure they're providing drinking water on board to crew for sure and guests wherever possible. It is one of those things that just should be or could be a bit of a no-brainer now. We're talking about super yachts, we're talking about the first world. The ability to provide clean drinking water should be something that we do as a matter of course. And then, clearly on a yacht, there are guest preferences to take into account. But we know that a number of yachts now are quite proudly saying to guests when they come on board, here's your yacht-branded water bottle. We produce our own water on board. You can have it flat, you can have it sparkling. And we're proud of doing it. And this is why, because otherwise we'd have bought on close to 1,000 bottles for your cruise or for your charter. Of course, if you want something different, then please do let us know. And, charter preference sheets are there for that reason. But increasing numbers of yachts are now making that change, saying something about it quite openly, explaining why they're doing it. And a number of the charter yachts are also, using it as one of their top sort of more sustainable credentials in terms of their marketing material. And there are clients who really do want to see that. Not all of them yet, but a number of them do. I think the challenge that the guys mentioned when we were talking about it a while ago was the fact that when you're on board and you're running between decks, cleaning and getting the job done, you may have left your water somewhere. And the easiest way to go and get more is to nip into the crew mess and grab another bottle or grab another can. It's a huge problem and there are lots of challenges in solving it.
Absolutely. I mean, from what I've seen though, which is positive, is that crew particularly are very, conscientious of it, and they are using their own bottles, and something you're given your own bottle when you board the first time, for example, and it's becoming more of a crew social pressure not to be using plastic bottles. Certainly, as was mentioned previously, as you alluded to, Georgia, it was the guest preferences. So if we can, set up a preference sheet that it says we use XYZ yacht filtered water. If you want to, choose something else, please select it, or please know that it comes as premium, or anything, any extra costs may be contributed towards a charity of some kind. So yeah, that's again, it's trying to change it from the top end. But as we've, I think, all mentioned, that Crew are definitely are very proactive and trying the best to use filtered water. And I guess even, they brush their teeth with it, they shower in it, so it's not like it's something they want to completely avoid. So there's no reason why they can't be drinking the yacht water anyway.
Yeah, there could be a lack of understanding about how safe the water is to drink, possibly. For the engineers working on the yacht, you know exactly where the water is coming from, so you have a good understanding of it. But perhaps the rest of the crew don't, and probably the guests certainly don't. But all water entering any ship, whether you've loaded it on the dock or you're producing it using water makers, it's sterilised as it enters the tanks, and between the tanks and the end user, i.e. the taps, it's sterilised again. If you had a drinking fountain, there's additional filtration there. On top of that, there's water testing. So you've got your filtration in place and your sterilisation, but to verify it's working, you can test the water. And that can be on board, or you can send it away to the laboratory. On the cruise ships, we had quite a lot of testing equipment, to the point where every time you loaded fresh water from a different port, you take a sample, you add this chemical, put it in this incubator for 24 hours, and that particular test will tell you the level of bacteria in the water, whether it's safe to use or not. It's quite compact equipment. I don't see why a yacht wouldn't be able to do that as well.
We have a small sailing boat, and we put a small filter on it a couple of years ago because, lugging plastic water down the dock just seemed ridiculous. And actually it is incredible to watch, watch the water makers going, you're bringing the water on board, purifying it, then pushing it through a second drinking water filter, and then telling our 6-year-old son that he's drinking the water that's come out of the sea that's been cleaned a few times. It's something like a miracle, right? But when you're going through all those extra processes on board the yachts, and as Elliott said, on the commercial ships, you are really taking it to a higher standard. And maybe it is in some instances a lack of understanding, or just a lack of awareness. It's like if you go to a restaurant now and you order fizzy water, quite often the restaurant might bring out its own branded fizzy water. Well, where are they making it? They're making it around the back.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of when we were on a ship in Norway, and we were making water, and we were actually at a place called Voss, which actually turns out to be the famous bottled water brand. So we were making it, putting hundreds of tons into the ship's tank of Voss. So the guests were quite lucky on that occasion. Voss didn't invent water.
No. So is that a message that we need to pass on to crew and to guests, that it is safe?
I would say if you can verify that it is safe, then pass that message on. Yeah.
And what about space? Is space an issue with water filtration systems? Or I know, Georgina, you said you had a small one on your sailing boat, but for the larger yachts, would space be an issue?
The guys will have a much more insightful opinion on it, but the initial thought that comes to mind is, are those filtration systems going to take up more space than 2,000 bottles of flat water and 2,000 bottles of fizzy water that have to be reloaded every few weeks?
The installations that I've seen with regards to these on-demand taps, about the size of a 10-litre bucket, something like that. So if you could maybe lose a cupboard in the crew mess to install one of these, it's certainly possible. Another thing about them is they're on-demand boiling water as well. So for the tea drinkers out there, you just push the button and, no need for a kettle. It's a bit more efficient, both with time and energy consumption.
Yeah. So what is the industry as a whole doing? Has the industry recognised this as the plastic water bottle issue, or packaging as a whole? Are they helping to move forward the issue of sustainability, or is it left to individual yachts and yacht management companies to move that message forward?
For what I've seen, there's definitely brands out there that promote it. You can have cartons of water now and tins of water, etc. But, from what I've seen, it's, if you want to order 24-pack or whatever of a certain branded water and bottled water, no, they'll all be wrapped in plastic. It'll all be the same. So I think it really depends on what it is that you're ordering. And there's brands out there that are doing it, but the popular brands perhaps aren't yet.
There was a huge push a few years ago, as various well-known television programs came out talking about these problems and the level of plastic in the ocean and so on and so forth. There was a big push at that stage. I think there is a great opportunity, as we said in the last podcast, there is a great opportunity for one of these filtration suppliers to become sort of the preferred partner of the super yacht industry, and maybe working with all the yards and maybe laboratories too, to get a certification that gives that reassurance that we've sort of identified is lacking at the moment, and give everyone comfort. That could be a great step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about water bottles, but obviously packaging goes beyond just bottles. Toiletries and food packaging. Do yachts look at, or are there opportunities for refills? What tools are out there for crew in terms of reducing toiletry and food packaging waste?
That's again, good question. I mean, there are certainly opportunities for refills in places, but with the yacht that's always on the move, it's harder to do that necessarily. But sometimes you can buy a bulk 5 litre or whatever it might be container of washing liquid that you can sort of transfer into smaller, more manageable containers. So that certainly cuts out a lot, and not that it helps a huge amount, but when you're shopping, always using your own bags and trying your best to cut down. Again, maybe the wrong person to ask in some ways. I was involved in provisioning to some extent, but not a huge amount. And everything that I did see that would come on board, I know that, again, crew were very conscious of what they were bringing on, but inevitably you were still ending up with huge amounts of rubbish that needs to be thrown away. And it would go back to the supplier sometimes. They take all the polystyrene boxes, or they take all the bags away, and they'd go and dispose of them ashore. So that isn't necessarily, ruling out the problem. It's just filling the garbage back to shore side again. So it's difficult from what I've seen, for sure.
So are there initiatives that we know about, or should we be looking at initiatives that are out there for refilling, for example?
There are a number of suppliers, and actually it's one of the things we'll come on to in another of the topics later, say cleaning products. A number of those suppliers are now providing ocean-friendly or eco-friendly toiletries that are of a high standard, that in some cases you'd be very happy to offer to clients. So one, they are cleaner for the water when they're washing out, but they are in bulk, and they have bases in the right sort of places for yacht and ship logistics. But clearly, there will be yachts, I guess, or owners who rightly like their own specific toiletries brands. And are those big brands actually doing everything they could to get that to end user in a better or a more sustainable way? And, sadly, normally the answer is no. A lot of the pressure comes from, dare I say it, the little people, comes from the bottom up. But could the big brands do more? Yeah. They just make everyone's lives easier and set a great standard for the future.
And food packaging. I mean, I try so hard to buy food that's not wrapped in plastic, but you go to the supermarket and it's virtually impossible. I have to rely on markets to be able to go down that road. So for crew, it must be impossible. Are there solutions being worked on in the industry?
You'd like to think so, or hope so. I mean, if we're provisioning for charters, you certainly can. A lot of provisioners I've seen have sent cardboard boxes with the fruit and veg in loose, because they are picking up for the market. Perhaps they're going directly to the suppliers. So there is an element there which is quite positive. And if they're packing in cardboard boxes and it's all within a sort of a 24 or 48 hour period that it's going from shoreside to the yacht, then yeah, actually it doesn't all come in plastic bags. But as you alluded to, cruising around, sometimes it's very, very difficult to be that way and to pick up fresh produce and to step off the yacht to go and buy the fresh this, that, and the other. Certainly is achievable if you're near an area that you can do that. Someone runs up in the morning and picks up some fresh produce, but sometimes it's just not the case.
No, and every country does everything slightly differently, don't they? Some are better than others, some are worse than others. So yeah, depends on where you are.
Bottom line is, when you're on a yacht, I'm sure you're just, on charter with the owner, or even just, busy keeping the boat going. You are looking for the quickest way through, and you don't always have time to go and source the most sustainable suppliers. And that's got to be something, I suppose, that has to be done in downtime, if such a thing even exists on board, but, in the off seasons or the shoulder seasons. There are, as we know, and we probably know from reading as much, not related to the industry per se, there are great projects out there looking into, say, seaweed as a source of packaging. I saw a guy in the Far East who'd invented a dissolvable packaging for soap. So you take your bar of soap into the shower and the packaging's gone sustainably. It dissolves into something that is biodegradable and ocean friendly or water friendly down the drain, and then you've got your bar of soap. But it is a long way from being something that is rolled out, because we will see that in the shops every day. There are so many opportunities for this industry, this brilliant industry that is full of innovation and has huge potential for R&D to make things happen and to drive change. There is huge potential for investment if people want to make it happen, but we just need those catalysts. And can it always be bottom up? You'd hope so, but you need pressure from the bottom up and pressure from the top down, and in the middle you'll meet and find the solutions.
Well, I mean, again, another interesting conversation. I think we could talk about this for hours, but I think this is a good opportunity to you guys listening. If you have any suggestions, if you have seen or are aware of any initiatives that you'd like to share, any ideas, then do get in touch with us on our Instagram page at Burgess Yacht Crew, and let's see if we can spread some learning. Thanks, guys.